From the News Channel 5 Network, this is Morning Line.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Morning Line. Nick Barris on a Tuesday. I was telling my guests not to be nervous. Yes, it's true that on any given morning, 500,000 people could be tuning into the show. I don't believe that many are. It would be nice if they were. But many of you are right now. I don't want to make him nervous. This is live TV. Anything can happen. Okay, but that's what it's all about on the Plus. And this morning's show is a good one. We're going to want to invite you to join in the conversation. We'll put the phone number up in a moment. But we're talking about cars. You know, that very popular PBS show or NPR show on the radio, Click and Clack? Well, this is Nick and Paul. We're going to get it going this morning, and my guest is Paul Kenny with Precision Tune. It's nice to have you on. Been coming on for years. Paul lives and works here. In fact, before we snagged you for Morning Line, I mean, you'd been coming on, talking to town for some time.
Talking to town, and then did some radio early on, you know, and just, I don't know, just always.
How did they discover you? How did Tot discover you? Because now, here's the thing, too, by the way. We bring people on for a variety of reasons, and we give them a shot based on their background and what they're talking about. But whether you get an invite back isn't so much about your knowledge. It's how you are on the air and if you're comfortable and relaxed. And Paul's the same way on air as in person. You're very, very good. But how did they find you? Was it one of the producers got to know you?
Actually, I was working at the Chevrolet dealer downtown, and they came in and asked if they had anybody to do short radio show with less I can't think of his name.
But this was in radio first.
Yeah, I did radio. Started with that.
Taking questions about cars.
Taking questions with some cars. And then a young fledgling reporter named Nick Barris was doing some morning TV in his late teens. And we would go back that far. So, yeah, I just kind of fell into it, you know.
Well, and you've been doing it for how long?
Good 25 years.
25 years. So you're what, like 30, 31?
Yes, yeah. I started when I was 6 years old doing this. Yeah.
Well, it's good to have Paul on this morning. The number is 737-7587. Questions when he comes on about your vehicle. If you have cars, questions that we can try to describe what you're hearing, sounds, whether or not you think you need to replace something, we'll do the best to answer it for you over the phone. And of course, we've got the time of year now. I was asking Steve Hayslip, who you know and thinks a lot of you.
Car guy. You know,
Steve's
big car guy. He's
total car guy. And during the tease this morning promoting this show, I mentioned that you were coming on, and I asked Steve if you would tell me, Steve, what do you think is the one or two most important things you need to address with your vehicle as you prepare for cold weather? And he talked about antifreeze battery, basics.
Right,
is there and is there anything worth looking into with regard to the air pressure in your tires?
Well, not so much the air pressure, but the tread. You absolutely want to make sure you got decent, because it doesn't matter how your car's running. If you can't get that power to the ground, and you know, everybody from up north says, "Oh, people in the south don't know how to drive," you know, in the snow and stuff. We get ice. Yeah, and you better have good tires. And the tread has everything to do with that. So the air pressure is secondary to the actual tire tread.
How should you go check it? Because I got to be honest with you. Like, and you know me, with my car, I don't know a lot about it, and I don't pay attention to it. I just want it to run. I discover I need new tires when it rains and I corner and I slide. Right. And I'm like, that's not when you want to find out you have a problem. And knock on wood, I haven't had a problem in that. I went and changed it immediately. So what do? You go, I've heard about the whole, what's that, quarter test and how deep it goes?
You take a penny and you put it in the tread with Lincoln's head down. If you can see the top of his head, you know, your tread's gone. Okay. But most tires have a little wear strip, and if you look down in the tread of the tires, you'll see one place where the rubber is a little bit thicker or stands up a little bit. That's your wear strip. When that wear strip gets down to the tread, or the tread gets down to the wear strip, rather, that's the minimum you should ever run a tire. Okay. And that's pretty visible. It's not on, you know, the whole tire. You'll see it about every 12 or 14 inches on the tire tread if you look down in there. Okay. All right. And any other tips that, aside from that, when people come in, there's antifreeze in your car in the summer, right? Antifreeze, so antifreeze, coolant, same thing. Yeah, right. Two different names, you know. And the newer stuff that's in the newer cars in the last 10, 15 years, it goes 5 years easy. You can have it checked. Make sure it's full. They have the little testers that you can check the coolant protection, how cold it will go, and but it lasts a lot longer, so it's become kind of out of sight, out of mind thing. So definitely check that. My old father-in-law used to have me come by and check the antifreeze in all the cars every fall. He was kind of old school, and boy, I'd get that call, and I'd just like, oh man, I know it's all good, but he was adamant about that, and I wish I could get that call today because he's gone now.
No,
so
you know, sure.
So it's just check it, you know, and make sure you're ready. Good preparation keeps you out of trouble.
Are you a master mechanic?
Yes, sir.
And what does that mean?
8 current certifications with.
Do you have to keep upgrading sometimes?
Yes, you have to keep upgrading. You have to renew them. It's you know, every 3 to 5 years you'll have some come due, and you have to keep taking
now,
them.
as opposed to as a master mechanic, that's a designation. There can be other mechanics that perhaps work with you or as underneath you to say, where you maybe handle as a master mechanic that allows you to handle certain tasks others can't. Or where's the separation there? Besides, I know you just said the training. What can you do as a master mechanic that a regular mechanic would not be able to do?
I know great mechanics that have never gone and bothered to take the certification test that can do everything or more. I mean, you know, I'm not the smartest kid on the block. It does mean that somebody that has certifications has taken the time to go take the test and holds the certification as kind of a sense of pride.
Okay, good. It's just another thing you can have.
Right. There's no state certification. It doesn't make one mechanic better than the other. It maybe means that has a little more pride in his work. I don't know.
Okay. Well, what I was going to say is,
that's a tough question.
Okay, I was just wondering. But as a master mechanic, it's like a seal of approval that a lot of organizations have as an extra thing to say, okay, he knows what he's doing. But I was going to say, when it comes to being a master mechanic, and dealing with the cars that continue to evolve. For instance, I have a Miata, which you've actually looked at before. Okay, we talk about my Miata runs with a gerbil in the cage. Okay, it's about as basic as it gets. And then you have some of these new cars just off the assembly line. They're computerized, high tech. Don't you, like doctors do with new treatments, have to come up with more training on how to deal with, say, the difference between my Miata, which is old, that's very basic, and some of these new high-tech cars?
It's playing catch-up lots of times. You know, you're reading, you're researching. The internet is great if you run into something you haven't seen. You are on the spot doing research.
Do you need new equipment like Precision? Precision Tune, you do mechanical work on the vehicles. You're known for also just doing oil changes and the like. But do you have to get new equipment to deal with some of these computerized?
New equipment, new scanners all the time. The electronics you have to keep up with. Oils. We're stocking 5 or 6 different oils now because you can't put the same oil in everything anymore, and that's probably one of the biggest complaints that I see people coming in with new cars is they're finding out it needs a full synthetic, so their oil change price just doubled. Of course, the amount of mileage that they can drive on that oil doesn't quite double, but it sure extends it along lines. But these are things that are required by the new vehicles. So
much
you got to keep up with it. The owners of the cars have to keep up with it too. So we're all learning, we're all evolving. Fortunately, it happens slowly. Just one model change a year.
Yeah, I know, but it's all computerized now. We're going to get to the phone calls. The line's open, 737-7587. But I want to ask you one question. It's kind of got a news angle to it, and you can just share your expertise. You know the whole Volkswagen scandal.
Right.
And I had heard coming out of that about how what we know about Volkswagen and that they maybe had adjusted somehow the computer reading to give a passing rating when the emissions really weren't there. And then I was reading some consumer news where in all cars that are computerized, the law, the way it's set up, if I want to find out if the settings are proper, I can't gain access to the computer, or could you get in there to see if the emissions are going out properly? But it's only reserved, and the law protects it, for the dealership or the maker of the vehicle to get that information, as opposed if I want to bring my car to Paul and say, Paul, can you plug this in and tell me, are my emission settings right? I've heard, and I may be wrong on this, but that on a lot of these cars, a federal law, and I forget exactly why it was passed, but it seems incredibly foolish, only allows the maker of the automobile to gain access to this, even though that info's in there. But I can't have someone independently tell me, your car settings are kind of screwy here, Nick. I don't know what's wrong, what came off the factory floor. You can't find that out.
Well, there's proprietary settings. I mean, stuff,
they like
information,
to hide behind proprietary crap. It's like, I don't buy most of that. I'm sorry. And we don't have access to it. So there's certain things you don't have access to.
and a lot of it comes down to money too. You know, certain things, certain type of electronic equipment is dealer specific. It's manufacturer specific. So if I want to have access to everything, I can get 90% on a regular scanner. That is not the little one that they plug in at the auto parts store. This is $4,000 or $5,000 we're talking about. But to get in and change settings, you can look at readings, you can pull up voltages, but to actually go in and change programming and stuff, it's all manufacturer specific, and that's a lot more of an investment than any independent can keep up with. Plus, you have the proprietary information where you can't go in because the EPA doesn't want people fooling it. It's basically akin.
That's why I think they passed the law. The EPA doesn't want people messing with it.
Right.
But on the other hand, it provides a shield for unscrupulous automakers who perhaps maybe want to take advantage of it. And we've seen what's happened now with Volkswagen.
Oh, and they are in so much trouble.
Yeah, and it keeps growing.
You know, now it's Audi.
And you're not so sure you want to just trust them on. My take is I think most automakers, and I've had a lot of great cars, do a good job. But transparency to me is important, provided I understand if they want to perfect some proprietary, invention that they have, so no one else steals it. But short of that, it needs to be out there for you to see it. And if it's not, I don't trust you. End of story. That's the way it should be, and you shouldn't trust them either. Let's take one quick phone call before we go to the break, all right? And we'll go to Harold. Hi, Harold. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
What's up,
Harold?
Hey, Harold.
I got a question about a 03 Ford Taurus. It's got the V6 engine, and it's got the double overhead cam. And the problem is, my son was driving it, and he was running the speed limit, and all of a sudden it just shut down. It was about 60 miles an hour, all it would do. And we changed the plugs in it, we checked the firing on the wires, the coils, and all. So it's got the check engine light was on, but we reset it, and the light went out. But I know it'll come back on because it's got a mist, kind of like a vacuum mist. You go back to the end of the exhaust pipe and put your hand on it, you can feel it flutter, but it's not like a burnt valve. I still think it's got a vacuum leak somewhere, maybe in the intake or whatever. So I appreciate your answer or question on it.
No problem. Harold, when you pulled the code on it before you reset it, did you have a particular misfire code or anything? Do you know?
3 and 5 cylinder.
Okay, check your coil. Because I believe 3 and 5 are companion cylinders on that. If either side goes out, it take both cylinders with it. That should have a multi-pack coil where you have 3 coils built into one, one unit. You can check the spark. It's a little. You seem kind of old school. I'm sure you've pulled a wire off a plug before and check it. Check it directly at the coil. See if you got good spark at your coil going to your wire. And then look at your wire where it goes onto the spark plug, get a good light and look down in there and see if you see a little burnt mark. And that may be what you're finding. Under a load, that thing's starting to miss, and when you take one cylinder out, it takes 2 on that, and you'll lose all your power. You're switching down to a 4-cylinder at that point.
Right. And we checked the firing from the coil to the plug.
Okay. And it was a good hot blue spark?
Yeah, we had plenty of fire coming through.
Okay, yeah, something misfiring on those 2 cylinders. If you've got good spark, then you got to revert back to fuel. Listen to your injectors. We use a stethoscope. Yeah. But you can take an old long screwdriver and put it down on that injector and see if it sounds right. Yeah. You may have some dirty injectors. Other than that, you're going to have to get in more specifics, and that's going to involve a little heavier equipment, like going in and seeing, the misfire counts and everything on it. Right. So, yeah, it still gets down to fuel or fire, Harold, so you're on the right track, Yeah,
it sounds like he's checking. Isn't it nice? Don't you enjoy it when you get folks like Harold who actually know what you're talking about, while I'm sitting here going, what did he just say?
Well, it's guys my age, cars were simpler. We learned the basics on that. I'd like to see more of the young guys getting more involved and learning how to change tires and check oil. We were having this conversation yesterday over after some phone calls. So
I'll tell you, it's not a bad thing to do. Also, if you know a little bit, then you can know. I hate to bring this up, but sometimes there are unscrupulous mechanics that will charge you $50 when all they did was turn a screw. And you want to know kind of what's wrong if you have an understanding. And
right, just anything. Knowledge is valuable in every aspect.
Exactly. So. Harold, I hope that helps a bit. That's why you're a master mechanic.
I know.
We'll take a break. When we come back, if you're on hold, look, you don't have to take your car today down and get big bucks to get it fixed, or to talk about maybe to get it fixed, but to get a diagnosis. Because Paul's right here. Dial it up. He's a master mechanic. We'll see if we can help you with any car questions. We'll be back with more of your calls right after this. Stay with us.